Every week, while most of California sleeps, a chain of events begins nearly 9,000 miles away in the humid archipelago of Indonesia. On the shores of Bidung, a fishing city tucked between volcanic ridges, and the Celebes Sea, dozens of longline fishing boats start their final preparations. Before the sun rises, crews load industrial blocks of ice, sharpen hooks the size of human hands, and calibrate onboard freezers capable of reaching minus 40 degrees Celsius. Their target? Yellowfin tuna, sleek, powerful predators that can weigh over 200 pounds and are prized across the globe. In these waters, fishing for yellowfin is more than a job. It's a race against heat, time, and the fierce standards of American importers. Each fish must be handled with near-surgical precision, or it will be rejected before ever leaving the dock. Out at sea, these vessels stretch lines that can reach over 40 miles long, rigged with thousands of baited hooks. The moment a yellowfin strikes, the crew launches into action. The fish is pulled in quickly, stunning it before it thrashes too long, to avoid muscle degradation. Within minutes, it's bled, gutted, and flash frozen on board. Every second counts. The Indonesian climate is unforgiving, and any delay could result in bacterial growth, soft flesh, or color change. Immediate grounds for disqualification from U.S. buyers. By midday, the freezers on these boats are humming steadily, layered with fresh catches frozen, so hard they ring like metal when knocked. Back in Bidung, these boats return every few days to unload their icy bounty. Massive forklifts remove the tuna one by one and line them on metal tables for inspection. Japanese and American buyers, clipboard in hand, test core temperatures with steel probes, slice tail sections to check the deep red hue of the flesh, and examine fat distribution. Only a fraction of these fish, those with perfect coloration, no bruises, and internal temperatures below minus 20 degrees Celsius, make it to the next stage. Rejected tuna is still sold locally or sent to regional markets, but the real prize lies in those cleared for export to California's high-end sushi restaurants and national supermarket chains. Once approved, the selected yellowfin are wrapped in moisture-resistant plastic, placed in wax boxes lined with thermal insulation, and labeled with timestamps, weights, and tracking codes. Each box is packed with a secondary layer of dry ice to guarantee consistent freezing during the journey. Then begins a frantic rush against the clock. The tuna must reach LAX within 48 hours from boat to runway. In a temperature-controlled warehouse just outside the Bidung port, freight specialists prepare pallets designed specifically for air cargo. Tight, square stacks that allow airflow while maximizing payload. Each week, an average of 70 tons of this frozen tuna is prepared for a single logistical ballet that begins with a deep freezer and ends on white tablecloth dining rooms in Los Angeles. From Bidung, the boxes are trucked overland in refrigerated containers to Sam Ratchalangi International Airport in Manado, a journey of narrow roads and hairpin turns through humid jungle. Indonesian customs agents verify the cargo against export licenses, and airport staff load the fish into wide-body cargo jets, most often Boeing 777FS or Airbus A330FS, contracted by global logistics giants. Inside the aircraft, tuna is stored at the forward and aft cargo holds, where temperature is maintained below minus 20 degrees Celsius throughout the flight. These are not standard shipping runs. They are precision-timed food flights worth over $10 million in weekly value, coordinated down to the minute to prevent even the smallest temperature deviation that could compromise quality. As the planes cross the Pacific, they fly over thousands of miles of ocean, monitored constantly by sensors tracking ambient temperature and cabin conditions. If the aircraft experiences unexpected turbulence, altitude changes, or slight cabin warming, alerts are triggered in real time. Upon descent into Los Angeles, ground crews are already in position. Within minutes of landing, forklifts remove the tuna pallets and transfer them to cold storage trucks waiting on the tarmac. From there, the shipments split. Some head directly to wholesale seafood markets like the Los Angeles Fish Company, while others are driven under escort to private distributors serving high-end restaurant chains. A single fish, depending on grade and weight, can command thousands of dollars at auction, especially during seasonal peaks. For chefs and buyers in California, the tuna's journey is invisible, but they can taste it. The meat arrives dense, deep red, and glistening, still frozen to its core, ready for sashimi, tataki, or searing. Sushi chefs use high-end thermometers to confirm internal temperatures before defrosting. In upscale Beverly Hills kitchens, yellowfin from Indonesia is sliced with precision, each cut no thicker than a coin. The taste is buttery, clean, with a slight ocean sweetness, hallmarks of a perfect cold chain journey. But few diners realize the labor, distance, and coordination required to bring that experience to their plate. And even fewer know that, somewhere in the heart of Indonesia, another boat is already preparing for the next round. Ice machines running, hooks baited, and another $10 million flight just days away from taking off again. Even before the previous shipment reaches the cutting boards of California's top sushi kitchens, preparations begin anew on the docks of Indonesia. Every crew, every port handler, every freight coordinator understands that missing a single shipment isn't just a delay. It's a financial disaster. Contracts are strict, penalties are harsh, and competition is fierce. Buyers in California expect consistency. Same quality, same timing, every single week. So while the taste of one tuna is being judged by a customer in Los Angeles, dozens of hands are already at work halfway across the globe, ensuring the next catch meets the same standards. This isn't just fishing. It's a calibrated supply chain, engineered with the precision of aerospace manufacturing, and just as unforgiving. Each new week begins with weather forecasts. The fishermen don't just look at the tide. They analyze ocean currents, surface temperatures, and even lunar phases. Yellowfin tuna are migratory, fast, and unpredictable. A wrong assumption could mean returning empty-handed. Veteran captains know the deep zones by instinct. GPS coordinates passed down from years of experience still outperform most software. Once the data is in, captains signal their crews. Engines roar to life. Ice machines thunder. And by dusk, the boats are cutting across the waves toward zones where water is deepest, temperatures coolest, and chances of landing 200-pound yellowfins highest. At sea, the real work begins in silence and discipline. Each man has a role. The ice manager checks the core temperature of the frozen hold hourly. The bait specialist ensures each hook carries fresh squid or mackerel, cut at precise angles. On deck, spotters look for movement, flying fish breaking the surface, birds circling. Then tension. A hit. A rod bends. The battle begins. On the other end of that 5-mile-long line, a yellowfin is fighting for its life with the force of a freight train. The crew braces, timing their pull. One wrong jerk and the line snaps. 1 second too slow and the meat bruises. But when done right, it's like a ballet, violent, quick, precise. The fish is aboard within minutes, killed instantly to prevent stress hormones from spoiling the meat. It's flash frozen so fast that ice crystals never get the chance to rupture the muscle fibers. Back at the port, the entire offloading process is managed like a factory. Each fish is tagged with a barcode ID. Scales log the exact weight. Digital thermometers record core temperatures. Everything is digitized and uploaded to the exporter's network. One fish that's even slightly warm gets pulled. No exceptions. That's because the buyers in California now expect complete transparency. QR codes on the packaging let them track the fish back to the exact boat, date, time, and even the crew who caught it. In a market where one box of tuna can be worth more than a used car, that level of trust is non-negotiable. But there's another pressure building: California's food safety inspectors. In the last 5 years, increased regulation on imported seafood means any shipment can be flagged, held, or rejected entirely. To avoid this, Indonesian exporters invest heavily in compliance. Cold storage facilities are upgraded with U.S.-approved temperature logging systems. Staff are trained according to FDA standards. Even the pallets are fumigated before shipping to meet U.S. Department of Agriculture rules. Every inch of the process, from the dock to the cargo bay, is audited, recorded, and rechecked before anything leaves the ground. When the tuna reaches the airport, it doesn't sit. The clock is ticking from the moment it exits cold storage. Pallets are pre-booked with cargo airlines, often chartered exclusively for seafood shipments. Every hour counts. A delay in customs can mean surface thawing, which destroys texture and color. That's why exporters use real-time temperature trackers inside each box. If a box shows a deviation of even 1 degree above the threshold, it's flagged immediately upon arrival. In some cases, entire shipments are redirected to cold warehouses mid-transit if there's a risk of failure. The level of coordination rivals medical supply chains, and the stakes are just as high. Once airborne, the tuna is part of a global ballet of cold logistics. These same aircraft often carry Norwegian salmon, Chilean sea urchins, and Canadian lobster. But the Indonesian yellowfin takes priority due to its perishability and value. In flight, the cabin pressure and humidity are tightly controlled. Sensors track every environmental variable. Pilots are briefed on the nature of the cargo and know that sudden temperature shifts could cost millions. In some cases, tuna shipments are insured not just for loss, but for temperature deviation, with claims filed if the fish arrive even slightly above spec. On the California end, customs clearance is pre-approved. Brokers are on site before the plane lands, armed with digital manifests, temperature reports, and backup documents. The moment the hatch opens, cold chain handlers rush to unload and refreeze the pallets in mobile freezer units stationed directly on the tarmac. From there, trucks already pre-cooled and standing by begin the final leg of the journey into the heart of the California seafood economy. Restaurants, auction houses, and private buyers in San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego. Each box is marked air freighted perishable, do not delay. Each fish, scanned and logged, disappears into kitchens where Michelin-starred chefs slice it open like treasure. But what diners don't see is the war fought behind the scenes, against time, against bacteria, against distance, and against failure. For every tuna that arrives perfectly preserved, 1,000 variables had to go right. And at every point, someone had to be ready to react, faster than the fish could thaw. Even as California's chefs prepare to unwrap the day's delivery of yellowfin, another network, less visible, but just as critical, kicks into gear behind the scenes. At the heart of it all is the buyer, not the chef, not the customer, but the seafood logistics buyer, stationed in an anonymous office inside a chilled warehouse somewhere between the port and the dining room. These are the silent operators, with a database of suppliers, temperature logs, cargo plane schedules, and GPS-tagged shipping containers. They act as conductors of an international cold chain symphony. Their job is simple but brutal. Secure the highest quality tuna at the lowest possible cost, ensure it arrives perfectly frozen, and never miss a delivery, no matter what. One mistake, one delayed shipment, and a multi-million-dollar restaurant group could lose an entire week's menu. But it's not just about logistics anymore. The American seafood market is growing more selective, more traceable, and more politically sensitive. Sustainability certifications, ethical fishing records, and ecological impact scores now influence purchasing decisions as much as color and cut. That's why many Indonesian tuna exporters have adapted by working closely with marine conservation groups, tracking every fishing boat via satellite, and logging every catch into blockchain-based registries that guarantee no overfishing zones were entered, no banned techniques were used, and no endangered species were mistakenly pulled in. For the buyers in California, these aren't optional features, they're demands. And to stay in the game, exporters have invested in transparency like never before. It starts on board. Fishermen now carry waterproof tablets instead of paper logs. Each tuna caught is scanned into the system with time, coordinates, and method of capture. If a boat strays into a restricted area, alerts are triggered. If a fish is pulled using an unauthorized hook type or weight, the data is flagged and the fish can be excluded from the shipment before it even hits land. Every aspect is verified by an independent chain of custody, which is then made accessible to U.S. inspectors and buyers through encrypted cloud databases. This has turned a traditional, intuition-based industry into one of the most technologically advanced segments of global food logistics. Back in California, this digital verification doesn't end at import. Wholesalers now scan QR codes directly from the tuna box to access its full history, not just weight and grade, but where it was caught, which boat caught it, and whether it meets California's stringent environmental standards. Chefs at high-end restaurants can even print this data onto their menus, offering diners an unprecedented level of transparency. A customer ordering a yellowfin sashimi plate at a 500-seat omakase in San Francisco can pull out their phone, scan the label on the serving plate, and see a digital map of the tuna's journey from the Sulawesi Sea to the sushi counter. It's no longer just food. It's storytelling on ice. But none of this matters if the fish isn't perfect. That's why, even after landing, the tuna goes through another series of inspections. At major seafood hubs like the LA Fish Company or Tokyo Central's West Coast Division, trained graders open boxes in 34 degrees Fahrenheit cold rooms, slicing small cross-sections from the tail and spine. They evaluate for deep red coloring, a firm elastic texture, zero freezer burn, and absence of gassing, a technique sometimes used in lesser markets to artificially enhance color. In California, gassed tuna is a fast track to rejection. Authenticity is everything, and buyers will pay a premium, sometimes double, for fish that meets the gold standard. Some shipments are even escorted by third-party inspectors hired by the restaurant groups themselves, who observe the entire receiving and cutting process before any tuna is accepted. At this point, the tuna is finally ready to enter its final transformation. High-end distributors like Lux Seafood, Ocean Prime Imports, and direct-to-chef specialists begin precision defrosting. It's not as simple as letting the fish sit. Thawing yellowfin must be done slowly, under strict humidity and airflow controls, to preserve its texture. In some facilities, thawing rooms are equipped with UV light systems to prevent surface bacteria. The process can take 24 to 36 hours, depending on size and cut. Once thawed, the tuna is portioned with laser-guided bandsaws into loins, steaks, and sashimi blocks, then vacuum-sealed and delivered in refrigerated vans across Southern California, often arriving just hours before dinner service. In some cases, chefs skip the middleman entirely. The most elite sushi masters, those with years of Michelin recognition and global followings, have standing relationships with Indonesian exporters. For them, the tuna doesn't go to a warehouse. It goes straight from the airport into black unmarked vans and is driven directly to the restaurant, bypassing every step in the supply chain except inspection. These chefs trust only one or two suppliers. They often video call during the catch. They've visited the boats. They know the names of the fishermen. For them, yellowfin isn't just fish. It's the foundation of their brand. If something is off, even by a degree or a day, they'll refuse the delivery. That pressure keeps the entire ecosystem sharp, lean, and relentless. Meanwhile, back in Indonesia, the cycle starts again. New bait is loaded. New flights are booked. A second vessel returns to port, hull full of glittering silver bodies frozen in place like statues. The clock resets. The inspections begin. Another 70 tons of high-stakes protein is ready to fly across the planet. And for the chefs, buyers, and diners in California, the machinery never stops. Every perfect slice tells the same story. A fish that beat time, heat, and distance to land on a plate halfway across the world, still frozen in time. While the last cuts of yellowfin tuna are being delicately placed on chilled ceramic plates across Los Angeles and San Francisco, behind those quiet kitchens, something much larger is already in motion. A new aircraft, this time departing from Jakarta with an emergency stop in Singapore for fuel and cargo adjustment, is already slicing through the clouds at 36,000 feet. Its insulated cargo hold contains another 70 tons of meticulously frozen yellowfin tuna, each one worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on grade. The plane's interior is a flying vault of protein, monitored second by temperature sensors, GPS trackers, and shock detectors. If turbulence hits too hard or cabin temperatures rise too high, ground crews are instantly notified. There is no margin for hesitation. There is only correction, immediate and precise, as that plane arcs toward California's coast. Over the Pacific's endless gray blue, the people on the ground have already begun to prepare. Forklifts are queued. Customs agents are pre-alerted. Cold storage facilities have rechecked their temperature integrity. Even before touchdown, a full team is mobilized. Truck drivers, refrigeration technicians, seafood graders, and quality control agents. Each one knows their role in the tight window that begins the moment the cargo doors open. For every hour that passes, the risk of surface thaw increases. For every minute of delay, the potential for rejection rises. This isn't just delivery, it's orchestration, designed to preserve value down to the molecular level. And the stakes are colossal. Each shipment is not just expensive, it's irreplaceable. These aren't mass-produced factory goods. Every fish is a one-of-a-kind catch, frozen at sea, handled by hand, and judged with unforgiving standards. Losing a shipment doesn't mean a delay in sales. It means a total collapse of that week's supply for dozens of clients. For some restaurants, it means rewriting their menu overnight. For distributors, it could mean breaking contracts with high-end hotel chains or luxury cruise lines. And for the fishermen back in Indonesia, it means not getting paid, because if the tuna doesn't land right, they don't get cleared for export. But there's something else happening in parallel to all this speed and scale, a quiet evolution of trust. Chefs who once accepted frozen fish from anonymous sources now demand real-time tracking, catch verification, and direct contact with the source. Many top sushi restaurants have live video calls with the Indonesian port as tuna is being packed. Others request daily photos of their assigned fish, not just for inspection, but to tell a story. In a social media age where food is photographed before it's eaten, even the journey of that food has become part of the experience. Diners no longer want just taste. They want transparency, origin, and proof. This demand has transformed not only logistics, but the culture of seafood supply. What used to be a secretive world of middlemen and hush-hush deals is now one of QR codes, blockchain traceability, and publicly accessible certifications. Importers are no longer just buying fish. They're buying a story, one that starts in the deep waters of the Western Pacific and ends on the pristine countertops of Beverly Hills. They want to know, was the fish ethically caught? Was the freezer cold enough? Was the airline reputable? Was the truck sanitized? Every answer matters, because the customers asking those questions now represent billions in revenue across North America. Meanwhile, the fishermen, often living on narrow docks beside the same boats they work on, feel this pressure more than anyone. They've gone from anonymous workers to frontline ambassadors of quality. Many have had to learn new digital systems, memorize new compliance codes, and adopt standards that didn't exist a decade ago. Their hands may be calloused from lines and nets, but now those same hands carry waterproof tablets and scan codes into shipment apps. It's not just about fishing anymore. It's about becoming part of a global machine where every action is tracked, recorded, and evaluated. And still, they rise at 4 a.m., bait their hooks, fight the waves, and pull in tuna with the same skill passed down from generations before. And yet, all of it, is invisible to the average diner. A single bite of tuna sashimi, smooth and cold and buttery on the tongue, gives no hint of the thousands of people, hours, and decisions behind it. Most never think about the man who caught it, the technician who froze it, the pilot who flew it, the inspector who verified it, or the chef who refused 3 others before choosing that exact piece. But we do. And that's why we tell these stories. Because behind every luxurious dish is a hidden world. A world of sweat, timing, risk, and precision. A world where ice is more valuable than fire, and silence on the docks can mean more than noise in the markets. And that's what this channel exists to reveal. The unseen engines that power the plates we admire, the billion-dollar systems behind everyday meals, and the extraordinary global routes that make it all possible. So if you've made it this far, if you've followed this journey from the Indonesian sea to the California sushi bar, if you now understand why some tuna costs more than gold per ounce, then help us keep exploring. Subscribe to the channel right now and become part of this journey. Every time you subscribe, like, or comment, you give us the fuel to go deeper. You help us unlock more stories from ports you'll never visit, airplanes you'll never fly on, and kitchens you'll never see. But the stories matter, the people matter, and the truth behind what we eat, that matters more than ever. Don't let these stories stay buried under ice. Hit that subscribe button and help us bring the coldest, fastest, most high-stakes supply chains in the world into the spotlight they deserve. Because behind every bite there's a story, and this is where we tell it.